Hello, and this is Carla Alonso with Real Talk.
Hi, I'm Christina Martinez with my podcast, Love Shouldn't Hurt.
I'm excited today to have Christina Martinez on today's podcast. We've been wanting to have major conversations with a woman of all ages, of course. There's a lot to discuss on just valuing and respecting ourselves. We both come from we're both domestic violence survivors, and we know it's a very important topic to talk about. But today, we wanted to share a little something and see what Christina's opinion is on a conversation that my husband brought up the other day as he's taking my stepson to school. And he was kind of complaining. He was saying that there's a lot of little young girls that were walking around the school and, wearing really short shorts. And, he said, their shirts are half shirts. And he started saying, he wasn't hiding, but he said he was coming around the block the corner of the school. And he heard a couple of little girls saying, "Oh my gosh, look at that boy. I can't wait to do beep, beep, beep to that boy." And he was like really blown away. And he said, "I can't believe these little girls," right? He goes, first of all, they're walking around school. He's like, their butts are showing from their shorts. And then he started saying he's like, social media, right? He's all social media has a big impact on them. And to me, I was saying, well, it's not really all social media, right? I said, it's also parenting, right? It is a responsibility of a parent. Like who's talking to them, who's explaining to them how to value themselves, how to respect themselves. I mean, for him to hear, I want to do that beep, beep, beep to this boy. It's like, whoa, hold on, right? But I feel like, where are the parents? Like, why isn't anybody having deep conversations with these kids about things that they should be waiting until marriage? What are your thoughts, Christina?
I mean, the same as your husband, did mention, social media. And I agree with both of you because bottom line, at the end of the day, everything you said was true, but also how are they having access to this social media? What are they looking at on social media? The parents are the ones who decide what is okay for their kids to watch. And I feel like lately parents are so just busy with their own jobs, with their own lives, with everything, that they're not paying attention to what's going on with their children. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And absolutely, it does start at home. But it's just a mixture of everything. I don't know how old were these girls?
The ages of what's freshman year? 14, 15. He says, so they were between the age. Oh, they were actually all freshmen, so they had to be in the ages 15 years old, 14 to 15.
Wow. And like for them to already know, I mean, I don't know what beep 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 is, but I can already imagine. And like for them to already know what those things are is just unbelievable to me. Like, what are they watching?
Yeah, it's true. I remember growing up. No, we didn't wear shorts like that. I mean, I wore shorts, but not short. And I mean, definitely trying to walk out of the house, my mom would have been on no.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I remember going shopping for shorts because I lived in Las Vegas when I was in high school, and it was very, very hot and dry heat. And it was hard finding shorts that were appropriate when I was that age. But I went with my mom, and my mom approved everything. And I remember coming home one day, and my dad, I would try my shorts on, and my mom would be like, "Oh, what do you think?" Asking my dad, and he'd be like, "Well, they're okay, but like," and my mom would just be like, "It is impossible to find, shorts that are longer, and it's just not what people are wearing. Like, this is the best that we could do." But again, my parents were involved. Like, I wonder how many moms and dads nowadays are actually looking at what their kids are buying when they're out shopping, because I see young girls shopping on their own all the time. And how many of them actually go home and say, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, like, can I show you what I got? Like, let me try it on. What do you think?" And absolutely. I mean, there were times where I would come down the stairs, "Hey, like, I'm leaving." And my dad would be like, "Ha, that's funny. No, you're not." And go back upstairs and change. And I'd be like, "All right, fine." Like, I couldn't get away with it. And So it really is just a matter of how involved the parents are in their child's life. And the talks too, because it's inevitable. Even if parents are involved in their kids' lives and checking and monitoring what they're looking at and what they're watching, they're still going to see things, right? It's impossible to block them and just take care of them and keep them in a bubble where they're not see these things. So of course they're going to see them out there, but it's important to have these talks with your children and to discuss, like, okay, you know, there's a girl walking by and her bottom is hanging out, like, let's talk about it. I feel like a lot of people or a lot of parents just feel like those conversations are awkward conversations to have, and so they don't even mention them to their kids, not realizing that the kids are thinking about it. Like, just because you're not talking about it to your child doesn't mean that that's not something that's going through their heads. And I feel like with young ladies, it's really hard nowadays, especially with all the feminism that's going around. Like, everybody, I don't know. I feel like I have mixed feelings. So I agree, you know, with certain aspects of feminism. You know, we are equal in everything, but I feel like they've just taken this whole word and just twisted it into something that it's really not. Like, and it goes farther than just like, I can wear whatever I want to wear and I should just be respected. Yes, you should be able to wear whatever you want to wear and be respected, but also dress in a way that is respectful to yourself.
And leave to the imagination.
Yes, leave to the imagination. There are ways that you could be covered from head to toe and still look sexy and still have men turn and look at you. And instead of saying, oh, dang, I want to beep her, it's, oh my gosh, what a beautiful young lady, or what a beautiful woman. Like, there are definitely ways to do that. I'm a huge fan of turtlenecks. I've always felt like turtlenecks, believe it or not, are sexy. I mean, a turtleneck, some like leather pants, and some boots. I mean, not 1 inch of skin is showing, but you can see the figure. I mean, it can be sexy without having to show everything. And I just feel like young girls just don't even realize what that can be like. They just automatically think, if I'm showing my skin, then I'm getting attention from guys, then that's what I want to be doing. But that's not the type of attention that you want. You don't want to be looked at like a piece of meat, because then you get treated that way. And then what happens afterwards is, oh my gosh, like I slept with him, or I gave him what he wanted, and now he's not calling me anymore. Well, of course he's not, because you put yourself out there and you gave these messages that you don't need to be respected. I only want you, I'm going to show my body so that you can look at me for what you want. Then I'm going to give it to you. And then you're not going to call me back, and I'm going to wonder why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. But if parents sit down, especially moms with girls, they sit down and they have these conversations. And you know what? I think it's important for dads to sit down and have the conversations with their daughters as well. I mean, there's something different about a dad sitting down with his daughter and saying, you're beautiful, and I am a man, and I think like these boys, like I was their age, and when you're wearing that, this is what they're thinking. Is that what you want them to think about you? That's just, I don't know. That's just my thought.
No, you're completely right. So I can tell you for my personal story, right? I was promiscuous in a different way, not dressing like that, but also when you talked about giving men what they want, right? As you're young, right? As a teenager, because we do, right? We're like, we want to be loved, and we want to feel loved and wanted, right? And it's a deeper issue, right? So it's like, what are you missing at home that you're not getting at home because you're trying to get attention from a little boy, right? So it's like, how far are you going to go to get that attention, when realizing, no, you don't need attention from a boy. Like, you need to give yourself that love, that respect. And Amen. Not only now, I was telling my daughter this the other day, as a matter of fact, actually a couple of days ago, I said, you're too young right now for a boy, and no matter what, right? You're 14 years old, you're way too young. I said, you got to save your heart, protect your heart. I said, because down the road, when you really, truly, a man really loves you and it's your time, I said, you're going to be so heartbroken. You're going to feel so disgusting because you allowed everybody else to touch you and do these things to you. I said, and when the man really comes into your life that really loves you, wants to treasure you, I said, you're going to be like, no, because you don't know what that feels like anymore, right? I said, so we have to learn to value ourselves, respect ourselves. And it's like, I always give her the analogy of a rose, right? I said, you're like a white rose, right? I said, every time somebody touches you, I'm all, what happens to the rose when you start touching the petal, right? It gets orange. I mean, not orange, but like that brownish color. And I go, and then what happens? I'm all dries up and ugly. I said, you can't put a beautiful rose back together. I said, it's ugly and it just dries and you just leave it there. I said, so it's like the same way for yourself. I said, every time you allow something to hurt you, it's like your rose petals falling off. I'm also just stay like a beautiful rose. That's just my analogy with her about a beautiful rose.
I do. I like that analogy. I also feel like, I lost my train of thought. Well, what can happen too is after you've been with so many people, you're absolutely right, Carla. Like you meet the right one and it might not feel right. You've damaged yourself because you've been with people that haven't been able to appreciate you, appreciate your worth. And so when you find the right person and they're doing all the right things, it's an unfamiliar feeling.
Correct.
And then you feel like that person is not the one for you because you're not used to it. And so you just keep going in this cycle of being with people that are not good for you, that don't appreciate you, that don't see your worth, that aren't treating you the way you deserve to be treated. And it's all because it's just something that you've gotten used to. And it's really sad. I think that waiting until marriage is something that is so outdated, and everybody says like, oh, but what if after we're married, there's no chemistry there?
I hear that a lot.
In my personal opinion, that is a bunch of baloney.
Yes.
You can tell through a kiss. You can tell through just a makeout session if there's chemistry there. You do not need to go all the way to figure out if there's some chemistry. And I think that a beautiful thing also is, okay, maybe, whenever anybody tries something for the first time, they're not going to be fantastic at it.
Correct.
Like perfect practice makes perfect. Like how beautiful for you and your partner to come together for the first time and practice until you get it right. Like why do we have this expectation that the first time that we're with somebody, they have to be like amazing? They don't know you. You don't know them. They don't know what you like. You don't know what they like. You don't know what turns them on. They don't know that about you. Like part of the beautiful thing of a relationship with somebody that is long lasting is that you get to discover these things about each other together. You get to build something together. Even like you're building a life together. Why not build intimacy together? Right. Why not do all those things with each other without all the garbage from the outside world? And I don't know. I just feel like it's such a cop out when people say, oh, well, I have to know that there's chemistry. So I'm going to sleep with him, to make sure. You don't have to make sure.
And when you're young, you don't even know what that is. You really have no idea what that is. You're just literally having intercourse just to give the boy what he wants. I mean, that really is. And then not only that, right? It's like once you've done that, it's like everybody talks about it. So it's not just one person. Now somebody else wants to, right? I mean, there's this little girl that I remember that I really liked, and then from another town, and when I heard, oh, Mom, but she sleeps with this person and this person and this person, I was like, wait, what? They're like, that's how she feels that she needs to get love, by allowing everybody. And I was like, oh, even as a parent, you're just like, where are her parents? Why isn't anybody talking to her? Like, why isn't anybody telling her this is how you value yourself? You're made for, to be for more. Like, you need to allow people to respect you. And like you said earlier, it's true. The fathers are the ones who teach their daughters, right? They need to be the teacher, the teachers for the daughters. The daughters need the fathers more than anything, because they teach them. They need to show them. Like I even texted my ex-husband and I said, hey, don't forget to bring your daughter roses here and there, right? Like she needs to understand, like she's worthy, she's enough, she should be treated this way. Just don't make her seem like she's one of the boys in the family. Like you have to treat her special. Like she needs to know like how amazing she is. Like you have to constantly keep telling her, I can't be the only one, right? It needs to be mutual and it needs to come from her father, because later on she's going to be like, I never heard it before, so I'm just be like whatever with any other gentleman. I'm like, no, that doesn't work.
And the way that your father loves you and the way that your father loves your mother, like your daughter is observing that, and she is going to try and find somebody that is going to treat her that same way because she thinks that that's normal. So as a father, it is your job to love your wife and your daughter the way that you would want another man to love your daughter. That's what I think. And also, isn't it interesting, the girl that you were talking about, how your daughter said she just sleeps with this person and this person and this person and this person to feel loved. Like, it's funny how, and correct me if I'm wrong, but once you do it once, it becomes so much easier to just do it again. Yep. And to do it again and to do it again and to do it again with 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, how long is your list going to be before you find the right person? Like, where do you draw that line? Where is enough? Right. And if you're seeking love from sleeping with somebody, like, if you slept with one person and you still didn't feel loved, why would sleeping with another person fix that? And another person and another person? Like, if the love isn't coming from, it's just not, jumping around is not going to fix that. That is something you need to fix with yourself, and you need to fix with God. And I am a strong believer of that. Like, your relationship with yourself and with God needs to be solid.
Correct. Before
you start trying. If you can't love yourself, how in the world are you going to love somebody else?
But at the same time, if you're not taught to love yourself, so I can say I didn't have my dad. My father was not around, and I didn't understand that, right? I had no idea how much it affected me in my relationships and me bouncing around trying to find love with men, right? Because I had no idea what self-love was. I mean, when you're young and you're growing up and nobody teaches you, you don't understand. All I remember is my mom would always say, like, respect yourself. Respect yourself. She would tell me, like, respect yourself from it. But at the same time,
what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then for me, it was more like, but I don't have a dad. Like, I just want to feel love, right? And now it makes sense why I had so many male friends. Always had relationships, because I was like, I just want to feel love, right? Not realizing I had to be the one to love myself, right? Give myself the kindness, the attention, the self-care. But also, being a Latina, what's the one thing we don't do, right? We don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about emotions, right? We're so hard. We're so like just strong warriors and just push and do this, right? We have no idea what gentleness means whatsoever. And I remember when even somebody gave me a gift, like I remember it felt so uncomfortable to me, because we're so used to doing, there's nothing wrong with us doing things for others, but we go above and beyond to help other people, that we don't know how to just hold back and be like, enough is enough. I need to take care of me, right? Because we do it till we wear ourselves out.
So, something else that happens that I figured out as well, because I've kind of had that problem also, where I will meet a good man and he's opening the door for me and he's paying for all my meals and he's doing all this stuff. And I'm feeling super uncomfortable because it's not what I'm used to. And I'm thinking, I can pay for my own stuff. I can get my own door. And we go back to like the feminism, right?
Yep.
Like, he's not opening the door for me because he thinks that I'm weak and not capable of opening my door. He's opening my door because he's being a gentleman.
Correct.
And then we complain about how the men in our lives are not gentlemen. Well, it's because your man brought you flowers 10 times and you told him stop. And then years down the road, how come he hasn't brought me flowers? Well,
so true.
In the beginning, I did. In the beginning, I brought you flowers. In the beginning, I opened your door. You told me 50 times, stop, I can do it myself. So I stopped doing it. And now You're telling, and then we complain about why we're with men that aren't treating us the way we deserve to be treated. Well, they tried. We told them no más.
So true.
And then we get mad about it.
It's so true.
Like, you have to figure out, like, what do you want? And even it happens with me with my husband now. He spoils me, Carla. He spoils me to death. Aww. And I have to catch myself, like, because sometimes he'll do something and I'll be like, no. And then I have to think and be like, do not stop this man from doing things. Like, do you really, what's going to happen if he stops doing this for you?
Right.
How are you going to feel? You're going to miss it. You're going to want it. So do not tell him no. Let him do it. Let him do it, because and then I have to tell myself it's because you deserve it. You deserve to be treated this way. But it's really hard to accept and to believe that you deserve to be treated like a queen after you've been in so many relationships where you've been treated like trash.
Yep, it's true. It's interesting that you say about the door, because my husband's the same way. He has always opened my door, and it's because I used to open my door first, and he was like, "Get back in the truck," until I opened the door, and I was like, "I can do it myself." Yeah, and he was like, "No, get in the car," and I was like, so I'd sit there, and I'm like, "But it takes so long. By the time you get off the car, go around." Like, I just want to get off the car, and he's like, "No," and I'm like, "Okay." So now it's kind of funny. The other day, we've been together going on 4 years now. The other day, I was kind of laughing because he got in the truck first, and he forgot to open my door because we were in a hurry to leave. So I stood there and I knocked on the window, and he's like, "Oh," and then he goes, "Oh my God," and I was like, "Hey, it's your fault."
Exactly. Yeah, we need to just learn to just let them. Yeah. It's in their nature, I think, to be that way. And it's sad because the young girls nowadays are not letting the boys be that way.
I want to tell you something actually after that too. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, they're not letting the boys be that way, and then it's our daughters that are not going to be able to find men that are like the ones that you and I have now. And it's nobody's fault but our own, because us as moms, we're not teaching our sons to do those things. And if we are, the girls that they're going out with are saying, don't, I don't need it. And so it's hard to find a gentleman nowadays that's like in their 20s or in their teens when you're starting with the boyfriends. Like, they're hard to find, and it's nobody's fault but our own.
So you're dead on. So my oldest, he actually blew me away. No, it was a while ago. We had a conversation, and he said something about, and he's in his 20s. And he goes, "It's so easy." He's like, "Just to get any woman now." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "They don't make it hard for us anymore." He's like, no. We were walking, and he was telling one of our other friends, he said something about, he doesn't, what did he say? He goes, "Oh, I don't ask for numbers." I was like, "What do you mean you don't ask for numbers?" He goes, "I give the girl the number." And I was like, "Wait, I'm sorry. I'm confused." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I do." He goes, "Because," he goes, "you know what the worst thing is?" He's like, "When you call a girl and it's the wrong number." And I said, "Well, it just wasn't meant for you, right? I mean, she gave you the wrong number. It's just not meant for you. Unless some girls just feel bad, so they give it to you." He goes, "So no." He goes, "So now I ask for their number." I was like, "Interesting." He goes, "And I wait for her to call me." He goes, "I don't call her." He goes, "She has to call me if she wants to go on a date." I was like, I said, the way I remember this, I said, the man is a hunter. The man will chase you if he really wants you. He's like, "But that's the thing." He's like, "Women make it so easy for us now." He goes, "Why do we need to call them?" He goes, "They always call." It was blown away. I was like, what is our generation like? What is going on with women? Like, no, like we really, really need to talk to women. Like, we got to revalue ourselves. We got to put, especially little girls, like we have to teach our girls. We have to really teach our girls, like, men need to chase. You can't make it easy for them. Like, we're the queens, we're the prizes, right? We're the ones that should, like you said, treated the right way, but we have to allow the man to do what he needs to do, right? And do the things, because if we're just giving them whatever they want, they don't have to chase, they don't have to do anything, they don't have to do anything for you. It's like women give men everything too before they're even married, right? And then they're complaining, "Well, why aren't they marrying me? Why aren't they doing this?" Well, you already gave them everything. They don't have to work at it anymore. There's nothing to work for.
And I also think, like, I don't know, the whole situation about men giving women their number instead, I have mixed feelings about it, because I see what you're saying, Carla. Then there's this other angle where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to respect her. I'm going to give her my number. Because I'm giving her my number, she knows I'm interested in her. Otherwise, I would not be giving her my number. And that way she feels safe that she doesn't have to share her phone number with me. But if she's interested in me, then she will call. So there's that as well. But I also think there's nothing wrong with a guy asking for a girl, and women need to be able to, if you're not interested, grow a pair and just say, you know what, like I'm just not interested. There's nothing wrong with that, and men need to respect it and just take it and be like, okay, I must not be her type. Like, no one should get offended by that. We should all be adults, and we should all be able to just tell one another how we feel. Like, not I am everybody's type, you know. My husband looks at me, he thinks I'm, you know, Miss Universe, but some other guy might take a look at me and think that I am the ugliest thing to walk the planet. Like, I'm just not his type. Maybe he doesn't have brown hair. Maybe he doesn't like blue eyes. Maybe he doesn't like, you know, maybe he likes girls that are a little bit bigger or smaller or whatever. And I'm not going to get offended. Like, I get it. Everybody was not made for everybody.
Correct.
Some people like vanilla ice cream. Some people like strawberry. Some people like chocolate. Why would I get upset because, you know, I have a favorite and my favorite's not yours?
Right. Correct.
So, I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel about that.
I don't know. I know definitely we have to, parents need to step up and really, I mean, even if it's not even your kid, I mean, if it's a family member, but I really feel like we need to have these conversations with our daughters to understand, you know, respect, what value is, what definitely boundaries are, right? I mean, and I know in our next episode, we're going to have a conversation about even teen domestic violence, right? I mean, because that's something that's big for you and I as well. But it's definitely having these conversations, you know, with our daughters. I mean, only that, and maybe even having opening conversations about like what we went through as teens, right? I mean, what we learned from our own lessons for our daughters, so they can understand like where we're coming from when we have these conversations. Because I think
it's our job. It's our job to break those cycles. We have to break the cycles.
Definitely. Yeah, I know I do it as much as I can with my daughter. It's hard sometimes. It's challenging. I was even telling my daughter the other day, I said, you know, I talked to my mom we had a really long conversation on the phone a couple of weeks ago. I said, and I really had, and there was more of an appreciation towards my mom as well, because I felt she opened up about things that she had never told us, you know, so to kind of hear her and, you know, and it saddens me that she's at a certain age now where I'm like, I wish we would have had these conversations a lot when I was a lot younger. So maybe I would have understood the reasons she was telling me the things that she's telling me. Yeah. So that's what I told my daughter. I said, you know, if I tell you stuff, it's not just to complain. I said, but it's because I went through something and I did stuff that I should have never done. And I don't want you to go through the same things. Right. So it's just having those conversations and opening up.
That is so important. Like explaining the why. I feel like we grew up in a time where our parents would tell us to do something and it was why. And it would be because I said so. Like, the answer's always because I said so. And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, and not even just say because I went through some things, like obviously age appropriate, right? But because I went through some things, and then like explain what you went through. And then maybe then that click will happen and we'll be like, oh, okay. Like, you know, that was a really tough situation. I can't imagine what my mom was feeling to have to go through that. Now I understand why she doesn't want me to dress this way or, you know, do those things. And, my mom always says, hablando se entiende la gente. Yeah. You know, when you talk about things and there's an understanding. If there's no communication, there's no understanding. So cutting that communication off from your kids and just saying, do this because that is not going to get you anywhere. You know, there has to be, like you said, that constant, that open flow of, they're not dumb. Like just because they're children, I think that adults sometimes think that they're not going to understand but are you kidding me? These COVID kids, man, these babies are coming out like with cell phones, like doing all sorts of, I'm like, what? How do you already know how to read? You're 2 days old. Like, so they can handle some of the conversations that we think, you know, obviously using vocabulary and certain things that are on their level. Of course, you don't want to overexpose them before they're ready, but communication.
Being vulnerable. Yeah, being vulnerable, definitely being vulnerable, and just asking, right? Just asking certain questions. I mean, not the same questions like, hey, how was your day or anything, but just kind of like, is there anything on your mind you want to maybe ask me or just have a conversation? Or, you know, just like my daughter, she opens up, but even just like, oh, who likes who today? You know, like just a simple question.
Yes.
And then it just kind of opens a doorway to her to have a conversation. And then, I kind of sneak my little questions here in there. So I think we just lost Christina. So I want to just thank you all for listening today. And our next episode, definitely we'll be talking about teen domestic violence. I really appreciate you guys listening to us today. And I hope you're able to get anything from our conversations. But for today, really have conversations with our daughters and opening those doorways of communication with them, really elevating our daughters and showing them what it is to value ourselves. So. Oh, I was just saying goodbye because I said we had lost you to join us on our next episode.
Okay. All right. Well, that was such an interesting talk, Carla. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I can't wait for next time.
Yes, definitely. Our next conversation will be definitely about teen domestic violence, and we'll have more.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.